So what we're doing in this panel here is just talking about how to live and thrive on Bitcoin. And, one of the things that a lot of people I find don't realize how many tools there are out there for actually being able to spend your Bitcoin or use your Bitcoin, or even better, get rewarded for using your Bitcoins. And so these are all what I call power users. They've been around a long time, and they're doing cool things in the space. So what I'm going to do is just, unfortunately, the way our logistics are, we got 2 mics, so I'm going to hand one to the table here. And we're going to just let each of you introduce yourselves, if you just start down the line, and just tell us in this part when you first heard about Bitcoin, and how long ago was that? What was going on? Why were you attracted to it? So we'll just go right down the line. So.
Hi, Michelle Seven. First of all, I totally feel like I'm going to throw up right now, and I'm sweating because it's the first time I've been on a stage since I was 17 years old. So that was 31 years ago. So thank you for being such an audience that I can dive in and not be too terrified. So thanks to you guys. So in 2011, I was a co-host on the radio show Free Talk Live. Mark Edge is outside right now in the hallway. You should stop by and say hello to him. And he and Ian Freeman had been taken to lunch by Gavin Andresen when, I guess it's January 2011. And we started talking about Bitcoin, and my primary interest was as someone who is, I've been debanked. So because of my political positions and my failure to file or pay income taxes, I'm not privileged to have either a bank account or to own anything or to have a passport. So for me, the blockchain was really what held the held the most interest for me, because I saw a way to use smart contracts and things like that to verify myself and identify myself and things. So that was really my primary interest, not so much the currency, which at the time it was worth, 50 cents or something. Yeah, so no one was looking to get rich. And secondly, my children, who at the time were 14, 16, and 18, did not have Social Security numbers because I am morally opposed to the federal government and also federal income taxes. So I never thought that I was morally in a position to assign anyone debt that they had not agreed to voluntarily. So I never got my kids' socials. And having access to jobs and the ability to travel was really... They didn't see a way that they could thrive before Bitcoin. They could live below the poverty line and remain anonymous kind of in that way. And they could basically work to sustain themselves, but there was really no way to own anything, and there was no way to participate in the marketplace. And lastly, my interest worldwide is that with only 1/7 of the world banked, and since that's the access to the creative and intellectual pool, I was really upset because I want to know what the other 6/7 of the world knows. I mean, all of the good ideas are not just a bunch of white people living in the Western world. I mean, I just refuse to believe that. So that, in a nutshell, is how I came to Bitcoin and why.
All right. Well, let's start by saying that I'm not Bitcoin rich. I heard about it when it came out on Slashdot. I thought it sounded really cool, money for the internet, but there it went right into the back of my mind. Because I said to myself, how are you going to convince normal people to use World of Warcraft money? And I didn't see a way at that time. A few years later, I checked in again. Bitcoin had spiked to 250, and there were these great companies like Coinbase and BitPay that made it easy to use Bitcoin, easy to buy it, sell it, move it around. And I thought, wow, this could really be a thing. I sure missed the boat. So I started doing YouTube episodes of Mad Bitcoins. And I did maybe 5 a week for 2 years. So I did about 600 episodes in 2 years. And then I did the Bitcoin group and the World Crypto Network. And yeah, it was a lot of work. So I just wanted to spread the word about Bitcoin any way I can. And now I'm working at Purse.io, which we'll probably be talking a lot about here, because you can save 20% on Amazon when you spend Bitcoin at Purse.io. So everyone should try that out. Obvious plug. There it is.
Mark's son at age 7, he traded in his Thomas the Tanks for Legos that he bought on Purse and got a discount. So, yay.
Yeah, he got a huge Lego set. It's incredible. It's the Avengers flying battle carrier. Looks great. I wish I had it.
Right on. Don't we all want more Legos in our lives? So, hi, I'm Stephanie Murphy, and you might know of me because I'm on the podcast Let's Talk Bitcoin. It's a podcast that's been going for about 3 years now on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. I also heard about Bitcoin in early 2011, from the radio show Free Talk Live. Gavin Andreessen was on, and he was talking about this magical internet money. And, you know, Bitcoin was kind of like in my face. Like, I didn't really seek it out. I wasn't reading Slashdot, and I wasn't like going online and reading these cryptocurrency mailing lists or anything like that. I'm sort of a different kind of nerd. My background is in biomedical science, and so I was never really into the computer space so much. But I did listen to Free Talk Live, and every night there was a time period in 2011 where every single day they would talk about Bitcoin, and so I'd hear about it. And after a while, it just became like, well, all right, I think I have to try this out. And at the time, as I mentioned, I was working in science, in biochemistry, and I had a lot of time to just sit in the lab and run experiments and sort of be by myself. But I was like a podcaster as a hobby. I was doing that for fun. And so I downloaded the Bitcoin software, which at the time was Bitcoin QT, which was like the only wallet that was available. And I got a Bitcoin address, and I put it on my podcast website, and I said, hey, would anybody like to send me a Bitcoin as a tip for my podcast? And a couple people did. And they came in, and I saw the little pop-up, and I was like, wow, that's cool. I don't know who sent that to me, and I don't really need to know. And then I said, well, I'd like to try, like sending and receive. So then I found some other blogger that I liked, or some other podcaster that I wanted to send money to. And I sent them a little bit of Bitcoin. And I thought, wow, that was really easy. And it doesn't matter if they were in Iran, Afghanistan, wherever in the world they were, I could send them money. And that was just so cool. And then I had a friend locally who he had like a business where he sold baklava on the internet. And he would sell his baklava for Bitcoins. And at the time, Bitcoin was like worth $1 or something. So he got I don't know what he did with all that Bitcoin, but he got quite a bit of Bitcoin for his baklava on the internet. And that was the first thing. That was the only thing that you could buy at that time. One of the only things. I think there was like alpaca socks. Yeah. Oh, really? Cool. All right. So yeah, at the time there weren't many things that you could buy with Bitcoin, but there was a lot of like just giving that you could do. You could send tips, you could send donations. There were a couple of charities actually that were starting to use Bitcoin, and I just thought that was so cool because working with a charity myself, which is called Free Aid. It's an organization that does volunteer first aid. We had issues with PayPal. We were trying to get 501c3 status, and we had like all these nightmares with that. PayPal froze our account a couple of times, and we were trying to use that money to like help people, like to get medical supplies and do first aid and stuff. So it was just using Bitcoin made that whole process so much easier, and I really liked the whole gift economy, not really gift economy, but like the culture of like tipping and giving and appreciating. Because when it's so easy to send a tip, people do it. You can't just shove a dollar bill into your computer screen and send it to your favorite podcaster, but you can send them a couple of millibits really easily. So that was the thing I liked about Bitcoin. But then I realized that there was something else that really, really attracted me to it in the very beginning. Just the idea that I could open an account. Actually, I could open as many accounts as I wanted to just by downloading a piece of software. I mean, how cool is that, right? You don't have to ask anyone's permission. You don't have to give anybody your social security number if you have one, or or your address, or your name, or you don't even have to sign up for anything. You just download a piece of software, or perhaps even visit a website, and bam, you can use.
We'll trade them out here. So
I've been talking too long. The battery's low on that one. So, yeah, the permissionless aspect and just being able to use money as easily as you could send an email. Why not in this day and age when you can send an email anywhere in the world and it arrives within a few seconds? Why can't we do that with money? So that's what I always thought about Bitcoin, and that's what excited me about it, and that's what still excites me about it.
So Stephanie and I were living in New Hampshire at the time, and when this is going on, and I just want to make a note because there are only a few women here, and there's been this thing within Bitcoin, how come there aren't more women, what have you. When we were first involved, I knew more women that were using Bitcoin than I did men. So I know that that's not true that more men were using Bitcoin, but where we were, and it was all with shire sharing, free aid, and what have you. So the women were involved. They just weren't VCs and interested in, I don't know how to say it politely, but yeah, so there, at one time there were a lot of women involved in Bitcoin in ratio to men. And Stephanie and I were two of them, and Stephanie, in fact, was the first person to use Doge. Weren't you, or something like that? Oh, I thought for some reason you were like the first person who, that's the rumor. Stephanie Satoshi Nakamoto, everybody.
It's on my name tag. It must be true. Yeah, no, I think you started that rumor, Michelle, about me being the first person to use Doge. No, actually, I think the Doge community doesn't like me because I didn't believe the whole bobsledding thing, and I talked about it on a podcast. But anyway, that's a story for another time.
Okay. Thank you. Hello. I'm Joe Salerno. I teach philosophy at St. Louis University, mostly logic classes and epistemology classes. I got into Bitcoin as a late adopter in 2013, mostly because I needed the money. And I think I saw an article on Bitcoin Magazine, and it was just a picture of the price going up and down and up and down and up and down, and I was thinking, well, maybe I should get in on that ride, at least in the up direction. And I think I needed a plane ticket really badly to Europe because, I just really wanted to go to France really badly. I actually had to be there, but had no way to pay for it. So that was and I had always dreamed about getting into day trading, I thought, because of some of my interest in strategy and strategy games and in, theorem proving and so on, that I might be good at day trading, although I had no formal training whatsoever. So, but conventional financial infrastructure is limited. There's relatively low access for small investors, and it's slow, and it's hard to get assets from one to multiple places for arbitrage, et cetera. So it was really hard getting in, but this opportunity just sort of opened up. I realized we found a way around those problems, and just within days was trading and paying for my plane ticket and more. So that's how I sort of got in somewhat selfishly. Today I like to think that I have other thoughts about it besides just how to make money. I'm in the early stages of starting a research group where we think about how to bring digital technologies to bear to help the unbanked and the financially marginalized in St. Louis, where in particular we have a serious problem. So you might have seen the news in Ferguson over the last couple of years, but even the data is pretty startling. I mean, we have one of the highest unbanked populations in the country. 30% of African Americans have no bank and so are forced to pay high premiums on other services to even just pay their bills. They need money orders, they need to cash checks, they need loans, and banks have some incentive not to help them out there. They make a lot of money. They support payday loan lending. And now there are just ways around it. There's hope, there's promise. Our research group includes entrepreneurs, academics, artists, activists, and others. And like I said, it's at the early stages, and I'm open to collaborations and ideas and just brainstorming with whoever's interested in talking about these things.
My name is Blake Anderson. Before Bitcoin, I worked for Fortune 25 finance and banking. My IT career had specialized in infrastructural project management for underwriters, banking, etc. At the peak of my career, I was working at a Fortune 25 bank in math-based security, information technology, project management. It was a Fortune 25 bank that had bought a Fortune 27 bank. So we have basically the 32 too-big-to-fail banks continually consolidating more and more and more and more and further. And then we had really, really, really stringent security requirements to try to keep everything secure, as we have upwards of 300,000 users with direct access to hardware. I mean, information security 101 is that direct access to any kind of hardware is generally going to be the biggest threat. That being the case, I kind of realized at a kind of information science level that this was an untenable system, and that newer systems coming along were going to disrupt it. And I remember knowing about Bitcoin and then seeing it crash from 30 down to a much, much, much lower number than that, and thinking this is going to bounce back at least to 30. I know of no other option to diversify into completely immutable storage other than this. And basically, ever since then, I've been trying to convince people to have investment horizons which will allow them to take advantage of that.
So we don't have... Oh, here's Stephen. He's looking for his microphone back. Oh, thank you.
I'll give it back to you guys. So the question I have is... some of you have been in a long time, some of you a little bit newer, and the topic is how to survive and thrive on Bitcoin. So I'd like to just pass it through you guys and share with some of the ways you use Bitcoin as far as living, supporting yourself. And you mentioned a little bit about earning Bitcoin as well. So elaborate on that, and Purse is a great tool, so you can dive all you want into that too. But share with the audience members how they can use Bitcoin today and why it's better. Because it has to be better, otherwise no one will do it. So we'll start with you, Michelle, again. So we'll start on this end and we'll work our way across.
So in January, I was down at the Miami Bitcoin conference and stayed at it was held at the Clevelander, which, like this place here, the D, they accept Bitcoin. So you can use it to pay for your room or pay for your food and what have you there. And this was the second year it had been held there. And so the staff was familiar with Bitcoin, and we'd hooked them all up with wallets and things. And I developed personal relationships with some of the people the previous year. And so when I went back, one of the first things I did was I had weed delivered to my room because I smoke weed. And I paid for it in Bitcoin. So that was my first thing that I did when I got there. And, is it legal? I'm not sure. I can't keep up. I was in Colorado. Yeah. So I ended up getting hired for a job. And
You ended up getting high.
Hi. And for a job to come down the following month, which I did, and I stayed for a week, and I was paid. I don't remember what it was at the time. It was like 20 Bitcoin or something, and I thought, wow, my kids are now 20, 22, and 24, and I'm transitioning away from being mom. I thought, I don't have anywhere to be, and the weather's really nice down here, and it's really cold in New York. I think I'll stay, and I'll stay as long as I can use Bitcoin, because I don't have very much USD anymore. So I thought, well, this will be fun. I'll see, maybe I stay for the weekend. And I was able to stay for 4 weeks, and that was really fun. And the only thing that I didn't use Bitcoin for was Uber, and someone hooked me up an account so I could use Uber and it went to their card or whatever. But in any case, I was able to buy my groceries at Whole Foods, and BitPay has through gift cards. So I was able to buy gift cards for things. I was able to work out with some people who ran Airbnb, and they allowed me to pay for rooms and things and their home in Bitcoin off of the Airbnb thing, but I knew them personally. They just, whatever. So in any case, so I was able to eat food. I was able to go out, and I kind of had to go to the same, places over and over again. But every time I did, I was able to, evangelize and talk to more and more people, to where by the end of my 4 weeks, pretty much everyone that I interacted with had a Bitcoin wallet and was looking for ways in which they too could be operating within the Bitcoin system. So that was one thing that was a really fun little adventure for me, and that's it.
All right. Well, with my survival was mainly based upon the QR code. If you put a QR code on the end of your videos, people will tip you. Maybe not very much, and again, if the value of Bitcoin is going up, people will tip you more. When the value of Bitcoin is going down, people will not tip you at all. That's one thing I learned. I also learned that the QR code is very flexible. If you put the QR code on top of a Photoshop and you say, I want my friend from England to come visit us at the Bitcoin in DC convention, people will donate, and we can bring my friend from England to come visit us. And this is all because of the QR code. The public address of Bitcoin you can put anywhere. You can put it in your email signature. You can put it at the bottom of your blog, at the bottom of your YouTube, your SoundCloud, and people can copy and paste that and donate it. And the same way, you can make Photoshops, you can make banner ads, things with a QR code, and they can just scan it and donate directly to you through that Photoshop. So I really think that it's the QR code, tipping, and the ability for people that create art to finally get paid for it by donation on the internet that's helped me survive.
Cool. Well, I like what you said there about people creating art and Bitcoin enabling them to get paid for it. Yeah, it is pretty different than anything we've seen before, because people do tip when it's easy. It reminds me of this story I heard about a musician in Iran, actually, and people in the U.S. can't send PayPal payments to Iran for political reasons, and it's not allowed by the government. And so if you want to send an Iranian musician a tip, what are you supposed to do? Well, Bitcoin. So the main way that I want to talk about surviving and thriving on Bitcoin is, I mentioned I was a scientist before. I actually made a major career change, and now I'm a voice actor. So it's quite a big difference. I went from sort of like this almost corporate world of science to doing my own thing, having an internet-based business where I can be pretty much location independent and do some other things as well. And the cool thing about being a voice actor and having clients all over the world is that Bitcoin just makes it easier for them to pay me. I've got clients all over the planet, in Germany, China, South America, Brazil, all over the place. And a lot of them, if they wanted to pay me with their fiat currency of choice, they would have to convert the currency into US dollars and do a wire transfer, or maybe use PayPal if they have a PayPal account and if that's possible. But it's a big headache and it's a rigmarole. And they just want to, pay for the service and be done with it. But with Bitcoin, I send them a Bitcoin address and they pay me. That's really all there is to it. And I think if I don't do that much traveling, even though my business is pretty location independent. At this point, I don't really lug audio equipment around the world, but I could if I wanted to. And, I could get paid in Bitcoin, and I could either use that Bitcoin locally, or I could go find somebody on local Bitcoins and sell it for the currency of choice, whatever in the area. And, a lot of people actually do that, where they get paid in Bitcoin, and then they travel around the world. So I guess it just facilitates, they say trade brings people together, right? When currency is crossing borders, troops won't. That's one of these old economic, I forget who exactly said that, but one of those sayings. And it's totally true. I wouldn't know these people in Germany and England and China and all over the world if it weren't for their ability to hire me and pay me in Bitcoin. And it's really beautiful how those relationships get created. Now I'm getting all touchy-feely, but I do think Bitcoin, even though it's a piece of software and a cold hard piece of technology, it really can bring people together in a way that wasn't possible before.
Yeah, I mean, as far as surviving and thriving goes, I mean, I am not in any position to whine, although, of course, that won't stop me. But, I'm in a tenured position at a research university where I don't have to teach that many classes, and I could just pick up and fly to Las Vegas pretty much whenever there's a conference that I feel like going to. I don't have that many students. My pay is pretty secure. So, yeah, I trade to supplement my income, and I'm going to talk tomorrow about some fun arbitrage strategies. Some are extremely low risk, relatively speaking, and some are kind of fun and interesting. But I think for this particular panel, one thing I'd probably rather focus on was that there are a lot of people who aren't surviving and thriving, and a lot of the reasons why they're not is tied to their financial circumstances. And if you can't afford a bank account because of the fees, or because of you need a certain amount to keep it opened, or you'll get withdrawal fees, etc., as poor people often do, you basically don't have access to paying your bills, and you don't have access to savings, and there are a lot of other things that now you're forced to, credit, loans, lending, borrowing, all these things. Now you are forced into using financial mechanisms that are extremely expensive, some of which charge 400% to borrow money, and you have no choice because you have to pay the interest on the last payday loan you took out the month earlier, and you're locked into a cycle of debt. It's a circle of slavery, and debt is the slavery of the free, and there are a lot of people who can't get out of it. And relatively small advances on our part could make a huge difference. I mean, if digital wallets were in place, they would have savings. If the utilities accepted Bitcoin or USD tokens backed by 1 for USD, they could pay their bills without fees. They wouldn't have to pay for money orders. They could just pay directly. And the banks and the other people making money off of all these exploitive financial practices wouldn't be taking a cut of income that could be helping those households. So I don't think we're there, but I think that there's a lot of hope, and I think that there's a lot of interesting technology that I think hasn't yet been brought to bear, but could be in these areas to help others thrive and survive.
Well, thriving and surviving on Bitcoin. I guess this kind of hits really close to home when I was working for the bank. I have a son. My son Oliver has ASD, and so he needs a lot of extra care and support at home to make sure that he gets everything that he needs. And it occurred to me at one point that no matter how hard I work or how much money I save, there are no acceptable diversification avenues for me to diversify into that are going to be secure enough that he will be incontrovertibly cared for. And that's something that made me very angry. And it still makes me very angry. Not at any individual person irrationally, but it's a situation that we should not accept or let sit. So I would say that for me, the macro situation wherein we have an ability to escape from debt slavery, and it really is slavery, it's a tenable, logical position to call people stealing the fruits of your labor slavery. You're taking the cart and the horse and you're putting them in a different order, and you're saying it's not, but it is. It's not a good thing. So, I mean, short term, there's arbitrage strategies and things that can help make money in Bitcoin. I mean, don't load up an insecure exchange and lose all your money, but there are ways to, low risk make money in the short term. But in the long term, the network effect that Bitcoin has achieved and the hope that it gives certain people that really are not living high on the hog, that just want enough for their son to be taken care of, are given hope that that's something that they will be able to do that eventually, that eventually there will be a diversified option with a long enough investment horizon that you can really really trust it, and that made my life fantastically happier.
So I'd like the panelists to, as we close out, and sure you can add to that, Michelle, but on this last segment, as we wind this down, I'd like each of you to share with us your favorite merchants or services that you've spent Bitcoins at, where you find you get great value. And I think we would just like to hear that. What places do you like to spend Bitcoins at, and why? And so some of the folks in our audience will learn maybe a new idea or two. So thank you.
I want to add something, though, because we all talked about Bitcoin in terms of the currency. Didn't we pretty much? Yeah. And so as I had mentioned initially, starting to relax now. It's really nice. Thank you. The blockchain, which has been at the forefront of news lately, held interest for me because I really should have left home when I was 12 or 13 years old. And I wish that I could have, and life would have been very different for me had I done so. And why I didn't was because I had no way to contract legally for a job and also for a place to live. I would have been considered a runaway, and the state would have seized ownership of me, and they essentially did for a while. But so I thought, what about that kid who is really smart and they're bored out of their mind and they're forced to be in school because it's the law? And they're sitting there and they're looking up and they got a headache from the fluorescent lights, and they come up with a better lamp or light shade or something, a shade to go over it. And it's really only a $500 idea, or maybe it's a $2,000 idea. They're not going to pay for their college with this idea. But they're completely disincentivized. They go home and they tell their dad, and it's the first exciting day they've had at school in so long. And dad says, okay, or mom says, okay, and they look into it. And to get a patent and to get a thing and to get a thing and have access, it's just cost prohibitive. And so that kid goes, well, fuck it. I don't bother. And, can I say that? All right, I did. Yeah. All right. So it's not just what that has done then to that young man or young woman. Yeah, they have said worse things. It's Bitcoin Val's fault. But anyway, it's not just that idea. It's the idea that's going to come after that idea. So we have just essentially stifled innovation by making the access to the creative and intellectual pool so expensive. And so for me, the idea, I'm writing a book right now. The loose title is Cryptonaut, and it's about a young hacker girl. It's a mystery thriller, and I hope I finish it. It'll be great. But I'm not going to go the traditional publishing route. I'm going to publish it to the blockchain and hope I get paid in Bitcoin from all y'all. But I want to be able to show that this is the proof of my creation. And we all can agree, I happen to be an anarchist, but we all agree that fraud is wrong. And so it's going to enable me to show that I have created this. And just like it would have been able, that young man for a fraction of a penny would have been able to show proof of creation or proof of concept with his lampshade thingy. So it's not just the currency that for me has been so valuable, but it has actually given me hope. I'm almost 48 years old. I've finished my career raising my kids, and the idea that that I can't be productive is really dehumanizing. That I can't, have what I am able to make or ideas or whatever, that I can't participate in that. And so I think for me also the blockchain is how I am planning to survive and thrive, is through that use.
All right, so I'll go back more towards the question. I like to spend a lot of money on Amazon.com, right? So I buy books and movies and just everything, right? And I love it when it gets there right away and fast, but I've started using Purse.io because I can save 20% with Bitcoin. And Purse is a marketplace where basically you set up your Amazon wish list, you put your Bitcoin in escrow, and you say, I'm willing to pay 20% less or 10% less. Someone else comes along, they have too much gift credit, maybe they're paid in gift credit, maybe they just have too much. They buy your items for you, then you let Purse know when your items arrive, and we release the Bitcoin to the other party. So what we're doing is we're using escrow, the held money, to make online commerce safer and to allow everyone to buy anything you want with Bitcoin at Amazon.com. So everyone should try this out, Purse.io. If you use the code TOM when you join, you get like a free millibit, and it shows up good for my bosses. So thanks a lot on that.
Awesome.
Oh, you got your own coupon code moving up in the world. Well, I actually like Purse too. Actually, I was going to say I'm kind of on the other side of it. I have a couple of websites where I have like affiliate links, and people buy Amazon stuff through the affiliate links, and so I get affiliate credit from that. But sometimes I end up with credit from like Amazon UK or Canada when I don't live there, so I can't order stuff from those websites. So what I was doing with it before was just giving it to friends who lived there and just, hey, here, have an Amazon gift card. I can't use it. But now I can turn it into Bitcoin with Purse. And it's not like 100% because I have to sort of eat that discount for people to be willing to trade with me in that way through Purse. But hey, it works. It's better than what I was getting before. And I've also used Purse from the other side too as a buyer of stuff with Bitcoin. So yeah, that's my favorite place. Gift exchange.
I haven't used Purse together with Amazon in that combination yet, but in a related merchant purchase through Overstock. I like Overstock a lot. They accept Bitcoin. They were accepting Bitcoin, I guess, in 2013. I like the CEO. I like his energy. I like his attitude. He's an innovator in our field. But my favorite place to spend Bitcoin, which would definitely be of interest to everyone in this room most likely, is cheapair.com, because they take Bitcoin for flights. And I bought my flight to get here with Cheap Air, and I probably spent the most amount of Bitcoin to a merchant at that site.
They donated to BitGive. Yeah, Overstock is an amazingly powerhouse company in our space that's actively helping us achieve network effect and credibility and everything. So, I mean, I was going to say Overstock, but he stole it from me. Probably because I was whispering to myself, and I stole it because I mumbled to myself.
How do you spell that?
But I guess like a throwback company, BTCS, I think is what they're called now, BitcoinShop.us. I bought a lot of stuff from them way back in the day. I built a mining operation, needed some like ultra gigantic, cool air filter BTU things. So bought a whole ton of them off of BTCS or BitcoinShop.us. They didn't have them listed. I contacted their CEO, and he's like, yeah, well, there's no reason for us not to strike a deal and make that work. So there were several big purchases that I made early on that I would not have been able to make without BTCS or BitcoinShop.us. So shout out to them. They're a great company. Also, Overstock is great, and if you have, the time horizon to use Purse, I mean, there's almost nothing better than saving money and being able to use, anything that you want on Amazon. So Purse is arguably a killer app for Bitcoin. So kudos there.
All right. So I want to add a few places to that. So as many of you noticed who registered for this conference, the only way you could pay was Bitcoin, right? Unless you brought cash to the door. Because I got into Bitcoin because I don't like middlemen. I don't like anyone telling me what to do with my money. And so we used the Mycelium Gear merchant app. And it's very basic, as you noticed, those of you who checked out it, it's not perfect yet. But hey, no PayPal. How many of you ever had a PayPal account frozen on you? I've had several times. Money tied up for months, right? You've had they claw back money from you. Okay, so yeah, your merchandise is gone too. So yeah, so we paid for the. Why did we choose the D Hotel? They take Bitcoin. We paid for this entire event in Bitcoin. The hotel rooms we paid for in Bitcoin. Cheap Air, we travel on Cheap Air. All my domain websites go through Namecheap.com because they take Bitcoin. I've shopped on Overstock, egifter.com, or Gift for your phone apps. Gift is awesome. Yeah, so you get discounts when you shop. So I'm standing in line at Staples buying supplies for this event. I open the app. I pay with Bitcoin. I get a 3% discount. So Bitcoin, you're going to see more and more of this happening, especially as we see this trend in price, hopefully sustainable, but the move in the moving back up again. What up 30%? I guess what is it now? It was 25% this morning. Maybe it's 30% tonight. Price has gone up in the last 2 weeks. merchants are going to give you discounts so they can get your Bitcoin. It's happening. And so anyway, Bitcoin's the superior currency. People will trade you valuable things for it. So don't give it away unless you can get a good deal and you have a source to replace your Bitcoin. So let's give another big hand to our panelists. Thank them for coming up, and thanks for being up here.